What is good, MexitPlanners? I just checked off the last Central American country on my list, El Salvador. A year ago, I had two countries left, Panama and El Salvador. But if you'd asked me then, I would have said El Salvador was a long shot. For years, it was known for gang violence and insecurity. And honestly, I didn't think I'd be visiting El Salvador anytime soon. But plot twist, those days are over. In 2024, El Salvador wasn't just safer, it was the safest country in the Western Hemisphere. That's why I love traveling. Seeing a place firsthand is always better than relying on outdated headlines. Today, I'm breaking down everything I wish I knew before visiting El Salvador. Let's get it. One of the first things I wish I knew was where to stay. After months of research, the best advice I found was to stay in Zona Rosa, San Salvador. This modern district is home to major companies like Google and has shopping centers like the Bamboo Mall filled with restaurants and stores. Most Airbnb listings reference the Bamboo Mall to give you an idea of how close they are to this upscale area. That said, accommodation prices in Zona Rosa vary widely. Started my trip at the Hotel Barcelo, which cost $284 for 2 nights. It had a great location and service, but the rooms were a bit outdated. If you prefer a modern stay, the Hilton is a great alternative. I didn't stay there, but judging from the lobby, it had live music in the evenings and a fresh contemporary feel. Another boutique option I wanted to try was the Cinco bed and breakfast, but it was fully booked during my stay. If you're considering staying at the Cinco bed and breakfast, I definitely recommend you book in advance. For a budget-friendly stay, Airbnb is the way to go. I tried two different Airbnbs. One was fantastic and the other was a disaster. The good Airbnb, hosted by Carlos, was in the neighborhood of San Francisco and cost around $65 per night for 2 nights. And honestly, it was way better than my stay at the Hotel Barcelo for a fraction of the cost. Carlos had TVs and ACs in the main area and the bedrooms. The unit also had a washer and dryer with supplies available for guests to use. It was really like staying with a friend. I wouldn't hesitate to book this Airbnb again. The bad Airbnb, hosted by Melly and Jimena, is one to avoid at all costs. The bed linen wasn't changed and it was full of hair and stains. It took more than 12 hours for them to deliver clean sheets and towels. The host thought I was being a bit extra because I like clean bedding. I had to get Airbnb involved to get this resolved, and to my surprise, the customer service at Airbnb was outstanding. They offered me a credit to go stay at a hotel, which I appreciated. The sad part is there was a washing machine on site but no supplies. I would have happily washed the linen myself, but I didn't have a car to go buy detergent and such. Perhaps they are new hosts, but I would recommend against staying at their Airbnb until they figure out that they're in the guest service business. I left a review on Airbnb, but the hosts were able to get Airbnb to remove the review. I would have left it at the Airbnb review, but I feel they are being extremely dishonest in their practices by having negative reviews removed. Don't be fooled and book at this Airbnb. One of the things I wish I had figured out before arriving in El Salvador was my transportation. Before arriving, I had planned to either hire a private driver or rent a car to visit Santa Ana, Lake Cotopequi, and the Ruta de Flores. However, private drivers were pretty expensive for a solo traveler, with quotes between $120 and $150 per day. Once I saw how chaotic traffic was in San Salvador, I quickly ruled out renting a car. Instead, I connected with the Uber driver who picked me up from the airport and arranged for him to take me out to various sites. For everything else, I booked tours through Viator. I'll drop a link in the description notes below.
So this church is famous for its unique architecture with the stained glass windows, and you can see all the colors. It's beautiful.
For transportation around San Salvador, Uber was perfect. Most rides arrived within minutes, sometimes before I even got downstairs from my high-rise Airbnb. I highly recommend using Uber Cash to reduce cancellations. The only delays I experienced were during peak traffic hours, which can be brutal. Honestly, I recommend leaving the driving to the locals, even if you're used to city traffic. And I'm saying this as someone who drives daily in Merida, Mexico. Uber rides in El Salvador were super inexpensive, likely because gas is much cheaper than in Mexico. The most I paid was 35 US dollars round trip for rides to El Tunco and to the airport. Many other rides were under 3 US dollars, which is unheard of in Merida, Mexico. Couple of things I recommend you do in San Salvador is to take a city tour and visit the Central Park, Iglesia Rosario, the Benais Library, and the Central Cathedral. All are right there downtown and really close together. Now, the Benais Library is one thing that I would highly recommend you visit if you don't see any of the others. It is a modern library and really the model for any new libraries that should be built. I mean, it is amazing. And a pro tip, don't forget to go to the very top for a fantastic panoramic view of the city. The Central Cathedral features the crypt of Monsignor Romero, which is a national hero of El Salvador. After exploring the historic center of San Salvador, head over to Puerto Diablo, about a 45-minute drive outside the city, for breathtaking mountain views. After visiting the Puerta del Diablo, recommend that you head over to El Bocorón, an impressive dormant volcano crater that's an easy hike, making it ideal for seniors or for those looking for a more accessible trek. For a more challenging adventure, take a day trip to the Santa Ana volcano, El Salvador's highest peak at 7,813 feet or 2,381 meters. Here's what you need to know before taking a hike to Santa Ana. You can expect great views of the volcano Izalco and Cerro Verde. You'll also see the Lake Cotopequi at the summit of the Santa Ana volcano. A few tips to prepare you for the hike. Definitely wear hiking shoes and layer up. It's much cooler at the top. Bring a buff if it's windy to avoid volcanic sand and dust in your mouth and ears. And be prepared. If it's windy in the city at the bottom, it's going to be extremely windy at the summit. The hike is tough, even if you're in good shape. It felt like a 5-mile Stairmaster workout. I would definitely recommend water to keep yourself hydrated. If you're into hiking nature, this hike offers rewarding views, and this tour is an absolute must. I'll leave a link to it in the description notes below. The next day trip that I recommend is to visit a coffee finca. El Salvador is famous for its coffee, and I highly recommend a coffee tour at Cafe Pacas. Jennifer at Cafe Pacas led an incredible tour, available in both English and in Spanish. Back in San Salvador, I highly recommend that you visit Alchemia Coffee and try the coffee experience. This was the best coffee shop I had ever been to, and it was recently nominated to be one of the top 100 coffee shops in the world. I'll tell you much more about this coffee shop and my experiences there in the next video in this series. It brings it home full circle between Panama, El Salvador, and Mexico. So be sure to check out the next video in this series. Another thing I wish I had known before visiting El Salvador was where to stay. Before my trip, I considered staying near Santa Ana Volcano, Lake Cotepeque, or the Ruta de Flores. After visiting El Salvador, I highly recommend using San Salvador as your home base. Most tours will pick you up and drop you off in Zona Rosa, so day trips are easy. Plus, you get to enjoy San Salvador's restaurants and nightlife instead of being limited to the smaller towns. Now, on the weekend, I recommend that you head down to El Tunco. The drive from San Salvador takes about 45 minutes to an hour. Getting an Uber back from El Tunco can be a little tricky, so I recommend that you do a Saturday to Monday stay. I stayed at the Hotel Roca Sunzal, which is right in the middle of everything. If you love the nightlife, it's great, but if you're looking for peace and quiet, it may not be ideal for Saturday nights. Now, I will tell you that the party lasts on Saturdays till about 2 a.m. and then they shut it down. On Sunday, however, the crowd shifted in El Tunco to more families and surfers, creating a more relaxed vibe. So one of the dopest things that happened to me in El Tunco was meeting this guy here, Greg from Kansas City. Greg recognized me from my Maya Train videos and stopped me in the street and wanted to say hello. We took that picture together, and I really appreciate Greg and his family for letting me hang out with them later that evening at one of the bars in El Tunco. We had drinks, we celebrated their cousin's birthday. It was really cool, and I got to meet a great guy who is, traveling and using the resources of YouTube to discover the world. So thanks, Greg, for hanging out. And if you guys see me out traveling, please be sure to come up and say hello and let me know that you watch the channel. I definitely appreciate it. But that was by far one of the coolest experiences I've had being a content creator. So by all accounts, everybody said that Saturday night El Tunco is the place you want to be, and the party doesn't stop until 2 a.m. apparently. So El Tunco definitely had some very cool beach vibes, and it's a dope place if you're hanging out with a group of friends. This particular place was particularly crunk. Cacao, so that's where I ended up going and hanging out and smoking a cigar, having a couple of shots. But this place had a line backed up quite a ways once it got really going. So definitely get there early, plan to hang out. One of the pro tips I'll give you is the bar upstairs was pretty empty when I got there. So you can go upstairs and get your drinks a lot faster than waiting in the lines or waiting for someone to serve you downstairs. Overall, I would say that El Salvador blew me away. If you're thinking about visiting, do it now, definitely within the next 5 years. If you have any questions, drop me a line in the comments below. And be sure to check out the next video in this series. I'll tell you a really cool story and tie the adventure together between Panama, El Salvador, and Mexico. You don't want to miss it. Until next time, MexitPlans Monty. I'm out.